Hey, hi everyone. This is Ranmay here on your show E-Coffee with Experts. Today we have Tom, who is the founder at Audience Key with us. Welcome, Tom, to our show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great. Tom, before we move forward and talk about your expertise and learn from you more about SEO, keyword research in detail, I request you to introduce yourself and Audience Key to our audiences tonight.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Tom Rusling here. I'm a career SEO. I've spent the last 19 years in progressive roles as a marketing director, SEO consultant, and search marketing leader. I founded Audience Key 6 years ago as a way to create kind of an SEO and content marketing strategy platform. Our mission is really to get marketers out of disconnected SEO spreadsheets and into a centralized kind of end-to-end data connected system, which you're going to use for keyword organization, planning, content development, content optimization, implementation, and then measurement. So all those different pieces from the strategic ideation process all the way to the publishing and the measurement, putting that all into one connected system.
Great. You did mention about keyword, Tom. For let's say a new client comes on board, right? And you have to do your keyword research before you actually go and hit the market out there. What are your processes to doing that keyword research and the initial audit for any client of yours?
Sure. I think we look at this in a few different ways. So it starts with, I think good keyword research doesn't come from one specific tool or system, but it's really making an amalgamation of various sources. So to start off with, table stakes are go in and get your keyword information that you're currently ranking for from something like Search Console. You can also use SEMrush, Ahrefs, etc., to gather as much of that keyword data as possible. From there, you can do the same type of thing for competitors. Obviously, you can't use Search Console for that, but you can get a lot of that information from SEMrush or Ahrefs. And you can look at a competitor either holistically on their entire site. You can look at it on a certain section of the site if you have certain overlaps, or even at the page level. So our idea is good keyword research just coming from a lot of different places. And it's that amalgamation. And then the last piece of it is going more topic level research. So finding, and there's lots of tools out there you can use, but finding a lot of semantically related keywords. Also, Keywords Everywhere is just a tool that we use and recommend to people. It's very easy to use, very inexpensive. And what that will allow you to do is look at maybe a seed keyword and look at everything that's ranking. Look at the top pages that are ranking for that keyword and all the other keywords that page is also ranking for. When you start to look at a seed keyword and you look at the top 3, 4, 5 results, by the time you get to the 6th result, you're finding very few new keywords. And so that kind of process starts to just build up. What we think of is turning something from a list of keywords into more a database of intentions. And a way we think about that is that when you really have all the different ways an addressable target audience is searching, and you're able to organize that and attributize the keyword data so you can slice and dice and filter and look at it, it really turns keyword data into market research for content. And you can really help you get into the headspace of your target audience.
You did mention about content. So while developing a content strategy that aligns with the business of the client and your SEO objectives, what are those essential parameters that one should look at while doing that entire process?
Sure. So you're asking from a content perspective, content auditing? Yeah. So the way we look at that is it starts with that keyword research and become exhaustive in that. Once you do that, we go out and we run a ranking report just to benchmark everything. And you start to see what terms are you ranking for solidly in that kind of top 10 area? Where are you softly ranking? And then where are you not really showing up at all? And from that, you can start to, when you run a few different rounds of that keyword ranking data, you can start to look for areas where keywords are ranking with different URLs and they're bouncing around. And that's one of the main things that we're looking at is either for a set of keywords, as you group them together, you either have no content, that's easy to solve. You can see you're not ranking for anything. But the trickier thing that's a little more hidden is when you start to have multiple pages that are unintentionally targeting the same terms. And one of the artifacts of that is you'll start to see the ranking URLs for a certain keyword bouncing around, and 1 week to the next, a different page is ranking for it. And that's what really leads into a solid keyword mapping strategy, which is essentially analyzing the content on a site. And mapping is about identifying what page in particular your ideal state is to have that page rank. So you have a set of terms and you're like, this is the specific page that I want to rank. The keyword mapping becomes your strategic goal. The ranking URL from your ranking reports is your current reality. And so as we do that and we're assessing the content and we're starting to map out what our ideal page is to rank for a term, and then we look at the ranking reports and we can see where there's that disconnect.
Absolutely. And then there is this category of high traffic keywords, which are more targeted, and niche keywords, which probably has low search volume. So how do you balance in your gameplay of targeting those keywords for high traffic keywords versus niche keywords with low search volume?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question, because the easy thing to do is to just build your list and then everyone, of course, hones in right on the header terms that have a lot of volume, but not necessarily a lot of intent. Also, you can use different keyword difficulty scores. Personally, I don't, just because I think with enough experience, you have a very good sense of this. But it really depends on the site you're working on. But it's usually not appropriate to be going after those really big terms unless you're working on a very well-established market-leading type site. So the way we look at that and the way we designed Audience Key was to address exactly that particular issue. Mm-hmm. We have, for every keyword, we have the monthly search volume. We also have a relevancy score. And that is actually, we have tech that helps you make that assessment, but ultimately it's a human decision. And we just score every keyword 1 through 5, 5 being the most relevant.
Right.
And that's to show, so when you're figuring out what do I want to go target and what should be the focus of my title tags, for example, on my key pages, you're not going to just make those decisions based on the search volume, but you're going to make it on the relevancy. And often the relevancy might be let's say, longer tail, lower volume terms, but have a lot more intention behind them and are potentially more appropriate for you to be pursuing, depending on the authority of the site you're working on.
Absolutely. And then also comes extended keywords, right? So how do you approach your extended keyword analysis to identify keywords that, they're most likely to convert for your client's business? And talking about conversion, what metrics do you use to measure conversion rates as well?
Sure. The issue with SEO is it's hard to get the keyword level data. You can get that out of Search Console, but now that's disconnected from the post-click experience. We don't really think about optimizing keywords. We think about optimizing pages. Now, keywords, through a mapping process, keywords belong to a page, and a page is what ranks and shows up in Google and is what people connect with, is that content. I would say we think less about the keyword by keyword level conversion, but we think about how will the content on this page convert? And we're looking at the conversion rate and all those typical factors, engagement factors and whatnot. And then from there, we're looking at the rankings to show what terms are really driving the traffic in. So it's a bit of a roundabout answer, but yeah, I think that's the truth of it.
Yeah. See, it actually makes a lot of sense when you said the page has to be optimized, because at the end of the day, that as a consumer, I'm going on the page and I'm not really worried about the keyword which I had typed in to get to that page. The content and the visibility of that page is way more important, and that has to be optimized. Because at the end of the day, it's about conversion, right? I can have 100 people coming to my website, And if none of them is converting, that does not make much sense to me. Uh, Especially if they're coming through Google Ads and I'm paying for it. And still, if they're not clicking on the buy button, then I'm at a loss. So
Right. Now that you raise a good point I meant to bring up and I got lost in my thoughts, but certainly if there is paid search data, that's the first place you go. Because you
right,
can start, that actually does give you conversion rates and that's useful insight, right?
absolutely. And there's a lot of local search in SEO as well with businesses with physical locations. And this market is also getting really competitive, right? As
Mhm.
to what are the key technical considerations that one needs to take into account while optimizing for local search?
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. That's really an entirely different algorithm.
Yeah.
So really, when we speak about local search, at least in my world, we're talking really about optimizing for the map packs, right? Local search, it's still based on having name, address, phone number consistency. And you do that through, first and foremost, going through the four major data aggregators, getting all that consistency done because they syndicate out into the kind of tier two and the rest of the ecosystem. From there, it's ensuring you can get local citations. So it's like links for local search are not necessarily hyperlinks, but they're citations on local directories. Lots of ways to get those. And then a lot of that is just your address proximity still comes into play, as well as just good, well structured website and that type of thing. I don't spend a lot of time doing the local SEO, but I've done a couple dozen of those over the last few years, but it's a pretty straightforward process. It's a good one for agencies to do just because it is, I would say, more predictable and less mysterious
Yeah. Absolutely.
than some of the SEO stuff.
It makes our job a little easier when we get
Yeah.
to SEO projects. Absolutely.
And the conversion rate is always dramatically better, right?
Yeah.
When there's just a different intent level going on. When people are
Absolutely.
searching for that.
Right. The consumer is out to buy in that
Yeah.
segment versus SEO and organic searches wherein they're still in that decision making mode of whether to buy, what to buy, and all that. So the consumer buying journey for a local search business is way better for us as marketers in terms of conversion versus going on Google and doing those organic searches. And that is why we see those paid ad searches, the conversion is higher, like you mentioned, because the buying intent is there.
I'll tell you just a quick aside. It's funny you're bringing this up because let's see, last Friday, my wife is a mental health therapist and works for a small practice, and they
Okay.
just had never done the basic blocking and tackling on that. So when you search for their counseling center name, up came a knowledge graph of a different therapy center in a different part of town that was somehow connected to their name. They just had no digital presence. And they
Okay.
were and I said, well, this is one of those things pretty easy. Let's just fix that.
Yeah.
And unlike most SEO things you do, you work really hard, you do all your strategy, you do your implementation, and then you sit there and watch the paint dry for weeks and
Right.
weeks. We're able to make an impact same day. So that's nice. Maybe I should do more of that, but
Right. And so, Tom, what is your take on link building? Because it can be challenging and time consuming process, right? And to build those high quality backlinks, organic backlinks that every business wants or needs, what would be your strategy to play around with that?
yeah, the way I look at link building, you can talk about other parts of SEO, technical SEO, content strategy, and you can put 100 experienced SEOs in the room, and they're going to have 98, 99% correlation and agreement on what are the best standardized best practices, ways to approach things. And then you get into the link building, and all of a sudden there is absolutely no consensus. What's funny is what I love is people who tell me link building doesn't matter. And I tell them, okay, cool. Keep thinking that way. And you stop building links because at the end of the day, I'm competing with you in some places.
Yeah.
Link building is essential. And there's a lot of ways to go about it. And there's a lot of opinions out there. So how do we think about it? I pay way less attention to any of the third party metrics. those things can be spoofed and hacked and manipulated.
Manipulated.
The number one thing I just look at, and I'll share a nice little tip. Again, I actually use keywords everywhere for this. I just simply punch in a domain if we're looking at doing outreach or having an opportunity to get a link. And I look at how many keywords that domain is ranking for. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
If the domain has a DA or pick your metric of 60, 70, 80, but it's not ranking for much, it's not worth it. And sometimes you get these sites that have a very low DA score, for example, but they're ranking for a lot of things. And especially if those are relevant terms to what you're targeting, that's where you want to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even for Google search queries, what are the relevant articles that are being written for those websites? Those are all our important parameters versus just focusing on DA, DR, which are like metrics of any tools, right? So very valid point there. Great. And Tom, before we let you go, I have to ask you this, the burning topic of around chat GPT, AI content, and the content writers getting scared about their jobs. So we all are in that storm, the AI storm, I call it. So what is your take on it? How do you look at it from your perspective? Do you use it? Do you see it getting evolved in general? What is your thought around it?
Like you said, everyone's figuring this out. We had on our team exposure to an AI content system a little bit, several months before ChatGPT kind of went. So we had a little bit more time under our belts. And our early conclusions, even before ChatGPT came out, was it was staggering what it can do. I think everyone had that first experience moment where you're just dumbfounded. It's a useful kind of, you think about it like your writing buddy.
Yeah.
It kind of, it's by your side. It's great. Our head of content strategy said it just right. She said, I never have writer's block anymore. When you use it for those purposes, MIT just came out with a study, I think this week, trying to quantify the economics behind this for content. And they came up with a very specific number that you're 34% more efficient at developing content. So that's the thing. It's not, if anyone is just letting the machine do the work and not putting any kind of human thought on the front and back side of that, yep, you can do stuff that's really scalable. It doesn't align with helpful content, that type of thing. I think that's a short-term way to look at it. A lot of people are talking about the AI sandwich. Humans are the bread, and you got to have the bread on both sides of it. And when you do that, there's some real helpful things that it's certainly you are more efficient. It can spark some new ideas, but you have to then first put that human touch on it. B, check your facts. Everyone's starting to understand that it's just doing predictive text. And that predictive text is unverified, and it just say things that are flat out not true. So if publishing accurate information matters to you, then, be aware of that as well.
Absolutely. Great. It can never be the final product. Humans made it. Humans made the machine at the end of the day, right? So you got to have that human touch in terms of creating that storytelling impact in your content and putting empathy, sympathy, that passion, and all of these emotional questions, which a machine can never generate, right? So humans are there to stay is what I personally feel. But yeah, the storm that we all are in right now, exciting times ahead for sure.
That it is. And I think what you can't do is run away from it.
Yeah,
because
there to stay.
One of the ways that I've been hearing people talk about it is it's not going to replace your job, but it's going to replace people that don't start to use it to do their job.
Yeah.
So I'm paraphrasing. Didn't nail that quite right, but that's the spirit of it.
Yeah. No, that's a very valid point there. The other day, I was speaking with one of my guests who mentioned that if you're not really tech savvy, average content writers, they should fear about their job because now the machine is going to do it. But if you're creative, if you're good at what you do, then probably you will become more efficient using the tool and you can write more blogs. Your efficiency in terms of delivering more blogs, more content will increase. So yeah,
it starts to polarize those that are maybe more talented, more capable, more experienced. They just become more and more effective. So yeah, it brings an interesting point. I would say right now, tough time to be a kind of standard content contributor. The people that are really high end, like you were talking about, totally different thing. Probably a better time to be a good editor.
Yeah, correct. Great. Tom, before we finally wrap this up, I would like to play a quick rapid fire with you. I hope you're game for it.
Okay.
So let's start. Your favorite book?
My favorite book. Oh, come on.
I got you there.
Wow. There's so many. It just, I guess it depends what mood I'm in. From like a business side, I love Blink by Malcolm Gladwell.
Okay.
That book, even though it's not really about digital marketing, it's all about digital marketing. And definitely one of those things that really shaped my thinking. So I'll
Great.
stick with that.
Superb. What was the last Google search? You can check your machine if you want to.
Oh my God, that's funny. I have no idea.
You can check your computer. That's fine. We're not looking at it.
Man. Oh, I know what it was.
Uh-huh.
I Googled whether the word wacko, WACKO, was a viable Wordle answer.
Okay. That's funny.
You asked.
Right. That's funny. And so let's say if there is a movie made on you, what genre would it be?
Oh my gosh. That's a good question too. There was a movie made about me. It's got to be a comedy.
Okay. Superb. Superb. This is the last one. I will not grill you anymore. So whether you are a morning person or a night person.
100% night person. I think my GPA in college was about a full point higher for any class that was in the afternoon.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that honesty, Tom. Really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for taking your time for the podcast. I'm sure our audience would have benefited a lot out of you in terms of hearing from you those insights and a few tips there as well. So thank you so much. And it was lovely hosting you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.